Welcome to Georgia School of Learning. Date palms. I hate them because they're nice and fragile. They impale themselves into your arm. Just as a quick demo, that lump there is from a date palm I got on my arm when I was Jake's age, so I was probably mid-20s. And it's a piece probably about that long, about 5 or 10 mil thick, and it snapped off. They say leave it alone because when you go into doctors and he goes digging it out, it's actually got reverse barbs on the point. So if you looked under the point in a microscope, when you try and pull it out, it's a bit like it wants to bury itself down. So every time you go to dig in, it buries itself in further and further. So the idea with those things is either if they're small enough, let them puss up and just squeeze it out, because the antibodies in your human immune system will actually try and eject it out of your body. If that doesn't work, then you've got a friend for life.
Wow.
And that little lump there has been up to there or down to there. It just roams up and down the arm, all right? But the worst part about them is a lot of people take them for granted. They go pick them up and they're picking them up with the spine end, and they should be picking them up from the other end. The other thing is they leave them facing up in the air like that when they should be facing them down to the ground. That way, if they fall over, it's not going to spear them. Mm-hmm. Just as another little story, I told a bloke one day when he was going to climb a date palm, don't try and kick him off with your feet. He was wearing Dunlop volley shoes, all right? Yeah. Guess what happened to him? Straight through there and straight out through his toe.
Wow.
And I was with a square nose pliers pulling it out. I'm serious. Yeah. I pulled it out, or I broke the tip of it off, and then he went off to the hospital to get the rest of it out of his toe. And that was because I said, don't do it. And he thought he knew better. All right, fair enough, mate. You leave it with it.
Yeah.
But the worst thing, probably the worst thing is, even though they look nice and green, the last probably 25 mil is always dead, or it's in a state where it'll just snap off. Like chap, that day we did that big date palm, he ended up with 2 up here and 2 down there. I asked him the other week, I said, how did you go with those? He said he didn't worry about it.
He just left them?
He just left them.
Yeah, okay.
So he's now got friends for life. All right? But you could see him, and they went right into his muscle up there, the ones up there.
Yeah.
He could have dug them out. I just told him, well, wait till it festers up and gets real pussy, and then try and pop them out then.
Yeah.
That's the easiest solution. That's the same way I deal with splinters or anything else. Anything like that, if you've got a good immune system, your body will try and dispel it out of your system. If not, then it's a case that you may have to go to the doctors. But like I'm saying, the people I know that have had them, that have gone to doctors, have ended up with more stitches and still had the thing still on the arm because the doctor couldn't get it out. And that's how I know about the reverse palm business.
Yeah, okay. When you're climbing the tree itself, what do you have to sort of be mindful of to not...
Loose ones. The worst is loose ones. All the dead stubs that people leave behind. Like if it's a homeowner, he'll trim it off and leave a stub this long that's still got a dozen good spikes on it, because he didn't want to get his hand in there and do this business, see?
Yeah.
That's fair enough, but after 12 months, they're in a state where they fall off. So when the climber comes along, he'll flick his pole bell around. Next you know, he's showered because one's let go and the other ones could be just sitting on top of it. So now he's got all those...
spikes coming down.
Yeah. So when I used to climb years ago, I would have had pants, then I would have had a shirt, a jumper, and then overalls over the top before I even climbed in the tree. Now, the boys sort of laughed at what I said the other week, but I don't care. Like, be smart about this. You're going to get spikes in you. Yeah. They said, look, it's not going to do much. But if you've got a thick layer of padding there, it might just get to your skin, but you've just saved yourself from going to the doctors or something.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing is because of the acidity of the palms, you always feel like there's something that's hurting you or it's annoying you. And it'll be on for weeks and weeks. You could put drawing ointment on it, and there's 2 ways. You can either put it on cold, or you can warm it up in a saucepan, warm the whole container up in the saucepan so it's nice and pliable, smear it on, put a cotton bandage over the top, and over a period of maybe a week, it should draw it out.
Yeah, okay.
All right? That's how I used to get splinters out, and that's how my mum used to get splinters and out of me when I was a kid. When you're talking splinters probably that long that are buried right into your finger and you can see just the end of it, you're pretty amazed by a week later, you can see a little bit picking out and you just pull it out and you're thinking,
yeah.
But that's the size of the spikes you can get from those date palms. Like, if it's an old dead one like we were talking about and they were falling down, you could end up with honestly, a piece that long that could just spear right in at the right angle with enough height to go. Now you go pull it out, and then all of a sudden you've left yourself a chunk possibly that long inside your arm. That's going to annoy the out of you for a start. That really is. And then straight away you're going to go, right, I'm going to need to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
They're just going to go, well, I'm going to have to cut all that part first just to get to the end of it and rip you open. And then all of a sudden it's not minor surgery anymore. And now you've got to go to the hospital. They're going to knock you out, try and get it out.
Yeah.
There's a few palms that are different than the normal palms that aesthetically look really nice but don't have the same problems as the date palm.
Yeah, okay.
You know, so date palm is probably the worst pick of the lot. Then you'd have Washingtonia palms, Livingstonia palms that all have thorns along the fronds that can give you a good resin. Alexanders, Bangalos, golden cane palms, majestic palms, they're all nice palms as features, but it only just have one. So
Cool.
it's probably drifted away from the spikes a bit, but at the same sense, you get a whole scope of what it's all about, you know. So